I'd like to share something that has a relevance for the life of all of us here. And I came across one of my favorite suttas, which has many practical implications and really also things that we can apply both in daily life and in our deeper Dhamma practice. And could you put on the text now? So, yes, as you can see, and many of you, I'm sure you're familiar with the Mahamangala Sutta, have chanted that maybe oftentimes. And let's go into that and let's talk about it in detail. But first, I'd like to read it out to you. And we may not have enough time to talk about each aspect in detail. Then just if something seems relevant to your mind, we also have half an hour of discussion time. If I cannot cover it now, we can talk about it in the discussions if you find something particularly interesting. I read it out to you first so that we get an overview. It's a really beautiful sutta because it covers really a lot of the Buddha's teachings, from the most mundane things like where we live up to the realization of Nibbana and being unshaken by any worldly conditions. So without further ado, I'll let the Buddha from the sutta speak. So, the Mahamangala Sutta, the blessings. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. Then when the night had advanced, a certain deity of stunning beauty, having illuminated the entire Jeta's Grove, approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him, stood to one side and addressed the Blessed One in verse. Many devas and human beings have reflected on the blessings, longing for safety, so declare the highest blessing. Not associating with fools, associating with the wise, and venerating those worthy of veneration. This is the highest blessing. Residing in a suitable place, merit done in the past, and directing oneself rightly. This is the highest blessing. Much learning, a craft, a well-trained discipline, and well-spoken words. This is the highest blessing. Serving one's mother and father, maintaining a wife and children, and an honest occupation. This is the highest blessing. Giving and righteous conduct, assistance to relatives, and blameless deeds. This is the highest blessing. Desisting and abstaining from evil, refraining from intoxicating drink, heedfulness and good qualities. This is the highest blessing. Reverence and humility, contentment and gratitude, timely listening to the Dhamma. This is the highest blessing. Patience, being amenable to advice, the seeing of ascetics, timely discussion on the Dhamma. This is the highest blessing. Austerity and the spiritual life, seeing of the noble truths, and realization of Nibbana. This is the highest blessing. One whose mind does not shake when touched by worldly conditions, sorrowless, dust-free, secure. This is the highest blessing. Those who have done these things are victorious everywhere. Everywhere they go safely. Theirs is that highest blessing. So this is the Mahamangala Sutta. And yeah, very beautiful as it spans over all these different aspects of life and actually gives us a lot of practical advice really on how to live and which things to integrate into our lives. Yeah, talking about highest blessings, big blessing, really things that contribute to our well-being. Let's look into them in detail, going through them one by one. Yeah, so how does it start? Not associating with fools and associating with the wise. This can be quite a challenge, can't it? In a life where we have to share a lot of time and space with people we cannot always choose. So, of course, something that is a blessing, it doesn't say you can never associate with anyone else, but really the Buddha is giving us an advice what we should value in life and where we should direct our attention to. Having a job, having relationships, having professional and personal connections with others. We cannot always choose, but definitely we can learn to seek out those who are wise. And for example, meeting at the Buddhist center gives us quite some opportunity to meet good people, to meet people who are following the path and who are devoting themselves to developing wholesome qualities. So that's definitely a step to avoid foolish people and to dwell with wise people. And as much as we can cultivate that, that's definitely a blessing in life. Some of you may remember there's a sutta where Venerable Ananda is talking to the Buddha, and he says that half of the spiritual life is good friendship, noble friendship, and the Buddha says no, actually it's the whole of the holy life, the spiritual life, because with the Buddha as our noble friend, as our good friend, we basically learn about the Dhamma, and we need this kind of initial instigation to be able to really understand what's good and to put ourselves on a good path. Now I've collected a few passages that point out what does it actually mean to be a good person, and how do we identify good people in our lives. And also one for good friendship, that the Buddha pointed out the preciousness of good friendship. He said, I do not see even a single thing that so causes unarisen wholesome qualities arise and arisen unwholesome qualities to decline as good friendship. For one with good friends, unarisen wholesome qualities arise and arisen unwholesome qualities decline. Good friendship. So it really helps us to develop what is good in life. Good friendship here, the term in Pali is kalyanamitta. It doesn't just mean close friends or buddies that you hang out with, but really, the word kalyanamitta can also be translated like friendship with the good. So it's not necessarily the goodness of the closeness, but really how do people impact our lives. And there's a quite interesting sutta that helps us to distinguish the qualities of another person that we meet. And there the Buddha is talking about 4 things that we can look for in a person and how we can understand them. And one factor of a good person is that they're virtuous, that they're kind of silamanta, that they are living a harmless life, and how to determine that a person is virtuous. And the Buddha says that virtue is revealed by living together with someone for a long time, but it also requires attentiveness and wisdom to discern that. So really we cannot really know a person's quality. Like even a teacher, when you see someone half an hour every week on Zoom or so, it's hard to say really, how the person really lives. But living together for a long time, you can really distinguish, is this person someone who's virtuous or who is living a harmless life, or the opposite. So that's what we should look for when we look for virtue, really spending time with these people and being observant and also wise to be able to distinguish that. So the next quality, good quality a good person has is resilience. A person's resilience. And a person's resilience can be seen in misfortune. So true resilience is shown by one's response to the challenges of life. One of the last parts of the Mangala Sutta, when touched by worldly conditions, when one's mind doesn't shake, the worldly dhammas, the Buddha explained as gain and loss, praise and blame, honor and dishonor, and simply sukha dukkha, happiness and unhappiness. How does a person react in the face of loss, in the face of disrepute, in the face of a bad reputation, and in the face of just suffering, basically? So there we can see the resilience of a person. And it can, of course, also be inspiring for us to know that these worldly things, they're just changing phenomena, and for us to become a good person and also to become maybe a worthy kalyanamitta, a worthy good friend, and to make it a point that to understand, here in this sutta it is said like this, one should reflect someone is afflicted with the loss of relatives, loss of wealth or health, and he does reflect. Human life in this world is such that the 8 worldly conditions revolve around the world, and the world revolves around these 8 worldly conditions, namely, gain and loss, disrepute and fame, blame and praise, and pleasure and pain. Thus, when afflicted with this loss of relatives, wealth, or health, he does not sorrow, languish and lament, he does not weep, beating his breast and become confused. So basically, we don't get upset when things happen, when things change, even when faced with unpleasant experiences. Also closely connected with one of the other qualities, patience, which is also a great quality. And then another quality of a good person, the fourth one, and that we should also look for in a noble friend, in a good friend, in a Dhamma friend, and is of course wisdom. That's really the core virtue of the Buddha's teaching, helping us to develop our wisdom. Wisdom, such a wide-ranging quality in the Buddha's teaching, starting out with being able to distinguish what is wholesome and what is unwholesome, and going through the seeing of the 3 characteristics of impermanence, dukkha, the unsatisfactory nature of experience, and anatta, the lack of a substance or core in all of experience. So how can we see whether a person is wise? What do we have to do in order to find out whether a person is wise? The Buddha recommends conversation, engaging in deep, meaningful conversations over time, over longer time, that unveils a person's wisdom. So listening, asking questions, discussing. That also combines very well with 2 of the other qualities in the Mangala Sutta, timely listening to the Dhamma and timely Dhamma discussions. And of course, it's not only about distinguishing another person's wisdom, but really also developing our own wisdom. So that's 4 ways to distinguish whether the good qualities of a person. Is the person virtuous? We have to live with them. We have to see how they act in the world. Does he have resilience? We have to observe them even in difficult situations. The integrity. I forgot one. The integrity in dealings. So a person's integrity, that can be seen whether a person is consistent, whether they deal with one person in one way, with the other in another way. That not meaning, of course, we have to know the right approach to everyone, but basically not being opportunistic and standing to one's principles and not kind of folding under maybe the pressure to please or whatever. So that's also an important quality. Integrity, observing someone, how they're dealing with in different situations. So now when we have found good friends that can influence our lives in positive ways, that can help us develop good qualities and abandon unwholesome qualities, it can be also interesting what the Buddha said about sustaining friendships, because that's also an important quality, as probably all of us who have lived for some time know that sometimes friendships break up. It's sometimes very sad, but that's what happens in life. So the Buddha was recommending 4 things that can help us sustaining a good relationship. And what are the 4? The first one, giving. That is a quality that helps sustain a good relationship. Kind speech, kind words. That's the second quality. The third quality is acting in ways that are beneficial, acting for someone's benefit. And the fourth one is impartiality, treating everyone the same. So again, I think it makes sense without much further explanation. Giving, kind words, helping, acting in a beneficial way, and being impartial, not having preferences. These are 4 means of sustaining a good relationship. Let's see. So talking a lot about having good friends and associating with the wise ones, and also maybe having the Buddha's words as an encouragement that we may also step away from people that are not wholesome to us. Yeah, but again, this is not always completely possible because we are in situations, and of course it can be also a great thing to help people who are in troubles and who may not always be the most virtuous people. Yeah, let's go on in the Mangala Sutta, venerating those worthy of veneration. I think that connects also with that one sutta that talks about how to see the positive qualities of another, to really understand also what is worthy of veneration. And that would be a person's virtue and also a person's training. How do we progress on the path? Is somebody strongly inclined towards greed, hatred, and delusion or not? And it doesn't really, like just a robe or being a monastic, doesn't really make you worthy of veneration. It's really the inner cultivation. And then you also don't need really robes to develop these good qualities and being somebody worthy of veneration. Really, it's the qualities of sila, the qualities of the cultivation of the mind, and other qualities like compassion, kindness, generosity. So these are these are great blessings. Buddha goes on to talk about residing in a suitable place. Yeah, like having a good environment. We cannot always choose, and these things, of course, are not absolute requirements to be practicing and to grow in goodness, but it definitely helps. It definitely helps, doesn't it? Living in a peaceful environment, living in an environment where we can find good people, also living in an environment where we don't have too much struggle. Merit done in the past, it's also a great blessing. Again, merit done in the past is not something that we can change in the present, but in a way, of course, we can, because we can do merit now, and it will be for our benefit in the future. Maybe also considering that how we act now gives the foundation, can give the meritorious foundation for the future. Merit done in the past. Directing oneself rightly. Again, a quality that is closely connected to the Dhamma, knowing the Dhamma, right view, having a direction. Reminds me of a simile that Ajahn Jayasaro likes to give. He likes to compare right view to a compass that gives us direction in mind. He once told the story that imagine a person has just an incredible sense of direction, and they just want to walk north, and they're walking, and they're really, really good, all the signs, the sun, the weather, the trees, the moss on the trees and so on, all the signs that you can know, maybe the stars, and they're just walking north. And because they're really good, they're just 1 degree off every day. But if you're 1 degree off every day, after 90 days, you don't walk north, but you're walking east or west, and after 360, of course, assuming that you're walking off the same direction each day, but I think you get the simile. Even if we walk off path slightly, we might not get anywhere where we want to get. So having right view as this kind of direction in our life, having an understanding of what is wholesome and unwholesome, and following this can be really, really precious for, as the Buddha expressed it here, directing ourselves rightly, which is a great blessing. Now we have a few practical things. Much learning and having a craft and a well-trained discipline. I think this can apply to the Dhamma, much learning, but also simply it is a blessing in life to have a good education. It's just that, and education on the one hand can help us to have a good job, but also, learning to think properly, learning to question things, to inquire. It's just a great blessing, just like intelligence is a great blessing. Not something that we can force in every life situation, but if we can develop this, yep, it's quite a great support. And having a craft, being skilled, is a great blessing. And being disciplined, for monastics, for us, this really also applies to being disciplined in our practice. But I think in just in daily life, a good discipline, that really helps. That's kind of helps to use our time wisely and to progress in whichever endeavor we have. And well-spoken speech, well-spoken speech has a lot to do with right speech. Well-spoken speech is definitely speech that is true, not lying. And having taken the 5 precepts today, this is definitely part of that. But also, the Buddha would express well-spoken speech that is not creating disharmony, speech that is not hurtful, and speech that not useless speech, because we want to use our time wisely, not the latest gossip and chit-chat, but being careful about our speech. That's a great blessing, but definitely the most important, I think, is honesty. Honesty, which, in all aspects of life, is a great support, even though it may be challenging at times. Serving one's mother and father. I have a sutta for that, and some of you probably have heard it. And those of you who come from Sri Lanka and are connected with the culture, this is one of the things that's still widely taught in Buddhist environments, Mata Pitu Patana, serving one's mother and father, and also acknowledging the gift that we have been given from our parents. And there comes this sutta, which is actually quite strong, but it's kind of quite interesting that the Buddha expressed it in this way. Bhikkhus, he spoke to the bhikkhus. Because there are 2 persons that cannot easily be repaid, what to one's mother and father. Even if one should carry about one's mother on one shoulder and one's father on the other, and while doing so should have a lifespan of 100 years, live for 100 years, and if one should attend to them by massaging, bathing, and rubbing their limbs, and they even void the urine and excrement there on one's shoulders, one still would not have done enough for one's parents, nor would one have repaid them. Even if one were to establish one's parents as the supreme lords and rulers over this great earth, abounding in the 7 treasures, one still would not have done enough for one's parents, nor would one have repaid them. For what reason? Parents are of great help to their children. They bring them up, feed them, and show them the world. So this appreciation of gratitude, to really acknowledge, as a monk, I usually eat what others offer to me, and this can be sometimes really. Sometimes we feel even, wow, that this person is giving me food. They don't even know me, and it can seem like something very special. But we all go through this situation when we're small, isn't it? Like our parents have been cooking for us, have been providing what we need for survival every day. And not only our food, our clothing, they have given housing to us. So really to acknowledge that, and as the Buddha says here, parents show the world to children. So I think it's also obvious, it doesn't necessarily talk about biological parents, but really those people who take care of you, those people who bring you up, to have this kind of gratitude connection. Now, relationships to parents tend to be not always the easiest, maybe also through the closeness and idiosyncrasies, and also, of course, parents' contribution cannot always be only helpful, particularly if they don't know how to lead skillful lives. But I think it's important. Acknowledging the goodness doesn't mean to condone everything, of course, and it doesn't say that all parents are good all the time, but really to have this appreciation. And even if parents may have brought us into difficult situations from time to time, to know this counterbalance of all the effort and all the generosity and all the giving that they have been doing. And I think we can also refer that to other people in our lives, like mentors, supporters, whatever. But definitely parents should be considered as very special people in our lives, whom we cannot even pay back by doing all these services to them or making them royals, if we had that ability. But the Buddha continues, but if one's parents lack faith, one encourages, settles, and establishes them in faith. When one's parents are immoral, one encourages, settles, and establishes them in virtuous behavior. If one's parents are miserly, one encourages, settles, and establishes them in generosity. If when one's parents are unwise, one encourages, settles, and establishes them in wisdom. In such a way, one has done enough for one's parents, repaid them, and done more than enough for them. So there is a way we can pay that back. And I think it makes a lot of sense, because all these qualities really contribute to one's well-being in a much deeper sense than any material gift can do. If a person has faith in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, this brings so much goodness into life, because it gives us a compass, it gives us a direction, it gives us really graspable means to develop goodness in our lives. Morality, sila, it's just such a great protection from harm, not only for others, but also from creating harmful karma for ourselves. And generosity, which is the foundation really for future well-being, for having enough basically in life, not only here and now, but also later. And wisdom, which is the greatest asset really, which helps us to eventually eradicate all suffering. So that was a little bit on supporting or serving one's mother and father, maintaining a wife and children, taking care of one's family and supporting them. Of course, we're talking about we're talking from the standpoint of an ancient culture, and of course, in modern times, maintaining a husband and children. Again, it's a great blessing. Just doing what one can to support. And an honest occupation. This is the highest blessing. Giving and righteous conduct. Assistance to relatives and blameless deeds. This is the highest blessing. Desisting and abstaining from evil, refraining from intoxicating drink, and heedfulness and good qualities. This is the highest blessing. That really connects very closely with what we have done before, taking the 5 precepts. Not doing anything evil, leading a harmless life. The 5 precepts is really a wonderful and also pretty simple system that the Buddha uses in order to help us avoid what's unwholesome. If we look deeper at the wholesome and the unwholesome, if we look at the roots, the root of the wholesome are the absence of greed, the absence of hatred, the absence of delusion. But it's sometimes quite difficult to be so mindful to know what's going on right here and now. So when we have these 5 rules, it's really a great support, a great protection to avoid doing anything evil, refraining from intoxicating drink, the 5 precepts, helping us avoid a lot of stupid things that one can do when one is heedless and drunk and intoxicated. So, and heedfulness in good qualities. Heedfulness is also something that we need in order to develop sila, and just in general, putting forth an effort in all the aspects of the wholesome, in dana, sila, and bhavana, and developing what is good. Yeah, next come very beautiful Dhamma qualities connected with our attitude, reverence or respectfulness basically, and humility, contentment and gratitude. And and timely listening to the Dhamma. So, yeah, being respectful if one understands that a person has good qualities, and still being humble. It's a great quality, really. Humility not meaning to be, I don't know, what's the negative connotation of humility? Maybe is meekness, does it have a negative connotation? Not being a pushover or not kind of, always giving in, but humility can really also be a strength by the lack of actually nivato, humility. But also understanding, not taking it personal. Even when we get into conflict, even when people blame us, but also in successes, not getting intoxicated, not considering ourselves as superior. It's really a great quality, and a great quality helping to get along in life and in relationships, in society. Contentment, this good enough attitude. Ajahn Brahm has this good enough meditation. It just takes some time and just whatever comes, good enough, good enough, good enough. That's interesting because we also have to use these concepts wisely, because there's one contentment that the Buddha did not praise, and that was one quality that helped him make progress and become a Buddha actually, and that was not being content with the state things were in terms of wholesome qualities. So contentment really here meaning being okay to bear with the situation, being okay, like maybe the material situation that we have, and maybe that's also quite important actually for our modern society, where we are bombarded with advertisements and things that could be better, that just maybe you need a new phone because it's slightly better than the old one, or you need a new car, you need new this and that. And actually contentment also contains some amount of wisdom, also understanding that by getting something better, suffering is not really eradicated. So contentment also has this wise aspect. Is this good enough? Maybe we can also ask ourselves, and if the answer is possibly yes, maybe we should be content with that, and not let ourselves be led by all the possible better things that might be out there, but focus on the more important things. Contentment and gratitude, also connects with the gratitude to our parents, but also acknowledging katanyuta, literally meaning acknowledging what has been done. Katanyuta, knowing what anya, like knowing what's been done. This kind of appreciation is maybe a good other word for that. Being appreciative, not taking things for granted. Even modern psychology acknowledges that as a way to increase happiness, gratitude. Simple practice like a gratitude journal can help with that. Really making the effort to write out what's good in my life, what are the good things that have happened today or whenever, to just have this appreciation. Having this quality is really a great blessing, because it brings a lot of more, again, going back to contentment, because gratitude can help us to be content, knowing what's actually good, the assets that we actually have. How much time do we still have? Let's have a look. It's 10:30. We still have a few minutes, I think. At 10:30 or so, we start the question and answers. Okay, let's.
We can have Q&A.
Let's have Q&A maybe in 10 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes. There's still a few things that we can go through. Contentment and gratitude and timely listening to the Dhamma. This is a great blessing. Patience and being amenable to advice. Patience, I think it makes sense. If we can really master patience, we're not shaken anymore. We can go through life much more at ease. and being amenable to advice, Sovachasata. You might also know the quality from the Karaniya Metta Sutta, Suvacho. I think that's a super important one, and a quality that can really help us also grow, not be offended. Learning if we are amenable to advice, and also very closely connected with humility, really. Not taking it personal if somebody points out a mistake, and trying to learn from things we need advice on. And the seeing of ascetics or monastics, so basically visiting those who may have a deeper understanding of the Dhamma, and then timely discussion on the Dhamma. This is the highest blessing. That's also interesting, isn't it? Because the Buddha was first talking about listening to the Dhamma, but that's not really enough. It's also good to discuss it, and we can really learn also a lot by expressing things verbally, and it's also a great opportunity to keep our understanding in check. And that is sometimes that's an interesting development. Sometimes as monks we can also live very long time just on our own, sometimes really for years, particularly in Buddhist environments where we're easily fed. And I noticed that this is quite important also, to also discuss the Dhamma, to rectify if we have a wrong understanding. When we express our views, we kind of put them out there for contemplation, but also for the quality we had before, being amenable to advice. So maybe sometimes we're wrong, and in discussion we can also find that out. But not only if we're wrong, discussion can really also clarify a lot, sharing our views, getting input from others. So that also a great blessing. Austerity and the spiritual life. Tapo, austerity. The word also has something to do with ardency. Tapo, austerity, asceticism, and the spiritual life. So that is really meant for people who want to dedicate themselves to something like a monastic life, or living as a hermit, and putting the emphasis on developing our minds, and the seeing of the noble truths, and the realization of Nibbana. This is the highest blessing. Obviously we cannot do all these things at the same time. You cannot live a family life and take care of your children and be an ascetic at the same time. But really this is an enumeration of good qualities that the Buddha simply gives for our contemplation. If you can integrate these things into your life, it will be pretty good. These are blessings. And if you want to make that step to go further and lead a spiritual life, lead the life of a renunciant, that's definitely a great blessing, and very conducive to seeing of the noble truths and to realize Nibbana. But it doesn't mean that seeing the noble truths and making progress in the Dhamma is impossible if you do not lead a monastic life. It's just easier. It's just a better way. It's a way that gives you more opportunity and more protection, actually. So, coming to the next one. One whose mind does not shake when touched by worldly conditions, sorrowless, dust-free, secure. This is the highest blessing. So this is really something that can be the result of cultivating all these blessings. Not something that we can only wish for, but something a result of our practice. When we practice the Dhamma, we become really unshakable by worldly things. Worldly things, as mentioned before, gain and loss, praise and blame, honor and dishonor, and basically sukha dukkha, pleasure and pain, or happiness and unhappiness, and whatever comes, being unshakable. And the Buddha closes up this sutta. Those who have done these things are victorious everywhere. Everywhere they go safely. Theirs is that highest blessing. So this was the Mahamangala Sutta. I hope there was something inspiring or meaningful or useful, and things that you can really apply in your everyday life. And we're having time for a discussion now. Discussion, questions, answers, comments. Yeah, you invited those sitting here or those who are joining online. If you have anything, or not necessarily a question, maybe you want to share, or maybe you can see how these blessings have influenced your life in a positive way. So you're very welcome.
Thank you, Ajahn Sangāmaji. We will alternate between questions in the room and online. Is there anyone here who has a question?
There is.
There?
Two. You have a mic, yeah.
Thank you, Bhante. Just a very small point. This is what I know is the Mangala Sutta, but I think you called it something different.
Sorry, can you say again? I didn't really probably...
This is what I know as the Mangala Sutta.
Yeah.
Yeah, but was it something different at the beginning? Did you call it something different?
No. Blessings?
Okay.
Mahamangala Sutta. Mahamangala. Yeah, Maha just means great.
Okay. So it's the Mahamangala.
You might be right that it is. Maybe
Yeah.
it's known under both titles. As far as I know, the Mangala Sutta appears in the Sutta Nipata and the Khuddaka Nikaya, Khuddakapata. So it might be known once as the Mahamangala and once as the Mangala. I'm not sure, but it's the great suttas on blessings. It's the same. It's absolutely the same. Only the title is different. Yeah. There was another, or just beside you.
Namo Buddhaya, Ajahn. Namo Buddhaya, everyone. I'd like to ask about the one that quality of good friends. Number 2, resilience. Ajahn mentioned that he does not sorrow when things change, and it's in the 268 on the Mahamangala Sutta, 268.
Let's have a look.
Yeah, one whose mind does not shake when
Yeah.
touched by worldly conditions, sorrowless, dust-free, secure. This is the highest blessing. So, for some people that have strong compassion and strong attachment, how is there a way to learn, or is there a way for them how to detach so fast that their mind cannot be shaken or touched by some worldly conditions?
That's a very interesting question. Yeah.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Because sometimes, yeah. The word compassion, even one word for compassion is anukampa, to shake with or to shake accordingly. First of all, to be completely unshakable is really a high achievement already, and really it's here at the end of the sutta. And also, being shaken doesn't necessarily mean not being moved. So there's some ways of being moved in the Dhamma that are wholesome. One of them also being sangvega, to being moved to strive to practice because one sees a problem. So for many of us, actually, getting to know the Dhamma also was shaking us quite a bit. It was kind of, there are some things that are not okay and I have to work with them. And maybe also this attitude, there are some things that are not okay and I have to work with them, that also works very well with compassion. And I heard that in psychology, they prefer to use two different terms, compassion and empathy. So, it's just words. Words are just definitions, but we don't need to really sit on the words. But empathy in this case, really meaning to feel the pain of the other person, and compassion more meaning that attitude, they're suffering, I want to help. And they feel very different. I think a person can be surrounded by a lot of suffering and help suffering people without suffering themselves. And I think that is what we should aspire to. There's no real, well, I may contradict some traditions here, but I don't think that there's a real value in suffering because another person is suffering. But there's a real value in helping. So being able to learn to distinguish the two. And so maybe in this, in context with the words that are used here, maybe not being shaken, but still being moved, taking the suffering that we see and our compassion as an instigation to help, but learning to not absorb another person's suffering. Does that go with your question, or was it going also to another aspect?
Is there a way that we can detach so fast that not feel sorrow and anything for that?
It's a good question. Has anyone else an answer for that? I would have to think about it a little bit. There's an idea back there. There might still be an answer to this question.
Hi, I don't really have an answer, but I
Can
have
you
another word.
get it closer, the microphone? Can you get the microphone closer?
I don't have an answer to your question, but I do have another word that I find useful, and it's equanimity. So it's kind of like having your balance.
Yeah.
Even though things are going really badly, you can maintain your balance so you don't get shaken off course. You know, in your life.
That's of course a good answer. Really, there's many different Dhamma qualities that we develop, and compassion may not always be. Well, you also need equanimity, yes, to be less shaken. So how to develop equanimity would be the next question. There's many ways, you know. Contemplation can help. That's just the way things are. Traditionally, equanimity, the contemplation of equanimity is given to contemplate karma, that all beings are basically the owners and heirs of their karma. So, but there's many aspects in the Dhamma that you could use in order to ease that discomfort that you were talking about. Like, for example, also meditation, simply by learning to let go or learning to settle your mind, get your mind settled. So, there's quite a few things, and it's worthwhile thinking about that. And as I said before, I find it important to distinguish between these two things, really. Taking on another person's suffering and trying just to help if you can. Of course, you're not always in that position. And I found it interesting. I once wrote that in a psychological book, or maybe I heard someone say that even a therapist who is suffering with the client is not the most effective one, but it's those who can keep a steady mind and try to help the person. So maybe just also that reflection. If I take on that suffering, it actually doesn't really serve. I mean, it can be a quality that helps you, that instigates you. Use it that far, and then what can be done? And this is from a famous American Dhamma teacher, Joseph Goldstein. He was expressing the quality of karuna, compassion, with the simple sentence, "How can I help?" Okay, now we come to the
Thank you, Ajahn. There's a question from Richard online who says he thought that a Kalyana Mita or a Papamita could only be a person. But Ajahn Brahm and other monks have said that non-persons can also be such, including the news or movies. And so the question here is, how can things that are not persons also be Kalyana Mita or Papamitas? And if yes, how?
Well, maybe we can ask ourselves, which impact does this information have on my mind? That information that I am ingesting, that information that I'm taking in, does it lead to what is wholesome and not? And a very prominent example for those of us who are really into Dhamma practice are the suttas. We don't have the Buddha around. So in this case, Ajahn Brahm is talking about movies. In this case, we have books. Yeah, books can be Kalyana Mitas. but I think we can also see the difference between a source that we can interact with and a source that we cannot interact with. It's much better to have someone we can interact with. And also if you remember that the ways to distinguish a person's qualities, they can be distinguished much better in interaction. So if we have a good friend who is also a virtuous person, this can be, I think, much more conducive. But yeah, we live in a world where we have at the Buddha's time there were not even books. I mean, writing was existent, but the suttas were not written. They were orally transmitted. We did not have the internet. We did not have Zoom meetings. We did not have all these things. Of course, these things can be used in order to develop Kalyanamittata. Yeah, but still, I think it's very different. When you see a person once a week, you see that part of the body for 45 minutes. It's much easier to distinguish what's really useful if you can interact. So, but yeah, still, if like you might even how to say, join this meeting from a country where it's even dangerous maybe to come together as Buddhists. So you can have Kalyanamitas not in person. That's also very useful. Yeah. A few thoughts on that? Time.
Is there, maybe we have one more question, Ajahn? Is there any questions in the room? Any last, yes.
Ajahn, associating with fools in that Mahamangala Sutta. Now, I find that very difficult. I find that quite harsh in a lot of ways, linking people as fools when we all have defilements. I, in my long life, have associated with, including myself, have associated with people who gossip, but they're also very good people who help a lot. I've known stories of prisoners who have gone into prison for murder, who have committed their murder because of the lives that they had led, as opposed to. So I don't understand how, with people with defilements, including myself, can be linked as a fool, when everybody has good qualities and some not so good qualities, unskillful. So the use of the word fool I find it very, very disconcerting.
That's okay, really, because it's just a word. Like, no, not making fun of you, but we don't need to use the word fool, really. That's a way to translation the word bala. A bala is something like immature would be a translation. We're having a text here translated from a language 2,600 years ago. So we have this kind of juxtaposition of pandita and bala, like the wise ones and the unwise ones, the immature, or like this is not about the Buddha said a bala. I use the word bala now in order to avoid the word fool, or an immature person is recognized by their conduct. People who have a again using a judging word, bad conduct in body, speech and mind is considered a fool or a bala. But really, it's just a word in order to describe, like maybe we can define it in a way that is more accessible. Association with people who drag you down isn't good. That doesn't mean that we should never deal with them. Yeah, but if you have friends who, like maybe even you said we all have our bad qualities and our unskillful things that we have done in life. For example, you can see that with people who were on drugs oftentimes. Then you're clean for some time and then you're coming back with your friends and they drag you down very quickly. Not to say that these are bad people or that they don't have a right to exist and so on, yeah, but to just be careful. This is not a supportive factor in your life. But if you can support them, you know what I mean? This, yeah.
Apart from the wise, apart from the arahants, who are the wise?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I have another sutta on that actually. I have another sutta on that. Where is it? Well, I think I haven't included it in that. So the good qualities of the wise. Well, the wise people are really, or in this context, the people who help you to get on a good path. The people who there's a few qualities that the Buddha says the people we should associate with. Virtue, like keeping sila, leading a harmless life. What was the other one? Wisdom. There's other qualities. Faith, like people who have faith in the Buddha, like Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, that this is a teaching that leads you in the right direction. I would have to look. Pardon? That's one. Yeah. Uprightness. Yeah.
Ajahn, I think also the translation again here.
Pandita, yeah.
Pandita is not, I don't think it's the wise is the right word.
What would you suggest?
Pandita is, so in Sinhalese, which is very close to Pali, you get the word Pandita, right? And Pandita comes from, I think, the original Sanskrit root, Pandita. So a Pandita is person who's has a lot of maybe learning or maybe some knowledge in the Dhamma or something like that. But definitely, I think Pandita is not wise. I
think that's the later usage of the word Pandita, that learned person. I think it also applies to the maturity of a person.
Yeah.
So maybe we can use the words like mature and immature persons.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, good to consider that. And again, maybe also another point I'd like to point out: looking at the suttas in a benevolent way. Like, how can I make use of that? Like, there may be some words that are kind of maybe irritating, or they kind of sound judgmental. When you look at the Buddha's teaching, the Buddha was really an incredibly compassionate and open-minded person. There was no need for, like, so, and also not condemning people. Yeah, and even that if we would use the words fool and wise person, it's not that you're caught there. It's really, the Buddha said, that's your conduct which makes you a mature or an immature person. So these are not fixed entities, or like, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Ajahn. Thank you. We do need to wrap it up. If you do have further questions, you can speak to Ajahn or to Bhante in the Vihara after the lunch dana as well. Okay. Thank you, Ajahn.
Yeah, thank you for joining. So maybe we can end by paying respects. Do you do some chanting usually in the end, or? Actually, maybe we can do a short chanting. Can you maybe show of hands, who of you knows the Mangala Sutta by heart? That's not many. Well, let's do it in Pali, those who are here. And I think I remember the Sinhalese chanting version. Starting. Okay. So those of you who know, please join, and after that we can pay respects to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha together. So the Great Blessing Sutta. Evang me sutang ekang samayang bhagava savatiyang viherati jetavane Anatapindikassa agami attako anyatara devata apikantaya rattiya apikantavanna kevala kappang jetavanang obhasetva yena bhagavate nupasankami upasankamitva bhagavantang abhivadetva ekamantang attasi ekamantang titakosa devata bhagavantang gataya achabhasi bahudeva manusacha mangalani achintayung akankamana sottana Bhuhi mangala muttamang asevanacha balanang panditanang cha sevana puja cha pujaniyanang etang mangala muttamang patirupadesa vasocha pubbe cha kata punyata atta sammapaniticha etang mangalam uttamang bahusa mata pitu patanang puttadarasa sangaho anakula chakamanta etang mangalam uttamang danancha dhammachayacha nyatakanancha sangaho anavajjani kammani etang mangalam uttamang agati virati papa majjapana cha sanyamo appamado cha dhammesu etang mangalam uttamang janivato cha santuti cha katanyuta Kalina dhamma savanang etang mangalam uttamang kanti cha sovachasata samananang cha dasanang kalina dhamma sakaccha etang mangalam uttamang tapo cha brahmacharyancha arya sajjana dasanang Nibbana Satchikiriyacha etang mangalam uttamang Puttassa lokadhammehi cittang yasana kampati asokang virajang kemang etang mangalam uttamang etadisani katvana sabbatam aparajita Sabbata soting gachanti tang te sang mangalam uttamanti. Sadhu, 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 sadhu. So again, thanks for coming, and let's end by paying respects to the Buddha together. To the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagavan Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivade Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Sanghang Namami